President Trump has sent federal officers into Oregon to protect federal property and federal statues. Now, there are allegations that those same federal officers are snatching people unconstitutionally. Oregon has sued the federal government. It is mayhem out there. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I'm your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And today we're talking about Portland, which has been under siege, not really, under protest for 7 weeks now. And those protests have varied in scale and scope, but they definitely still involve confrontations between the citizenry and the police or the state. And that has since escalated as Trump has sent in federal agents, and those federal agents are acting in a way that the state agents were not acting. Specifically, they are showing up in unmarked cars, which appear to maybe be rental cars, and they are in militarized uniforms, and they are grabbing people allegedly without telling them why and without identifying themselves. So the state of Oregon is suing the federal government, and they're asking a judge to prevent the feds from being able to detain Oregonians, or at least to prevent them from unlawfully detaining Oregonians. And this is a weird sort of mess and an interesting question about state versus federal authority. So let's take a look at an article from Slate magazine. Yes, you will need to shower. And then let's also take a look at a clip of someone being snatched up and see what we can determine from this video. All right. So Oregon sues federal government for grabbing protesters in unmarked vehicles. Mayor of Portland blasted the Trump administration Sunday for the way federal agents have been responding to the protests that have engulfed the city over the past weeks. Quote, "The tactics that Trump administration are using on the streets of Portland are abhorrent," Ted Wheeler, a Democrat, said on CNN. Quote, "People are being literally scooped off the street into unmarked vans, rental cars apparently. They're being denied probable cause and they are denied due process. They don't even know who's pulling them into the vans. The people aren't identifying themselves, and as far as I can see, this is completely unconstitutional." Well, let me just suggest that in all of these things, we need to put our little filter goggles on, because this is a political issue. And the fact that Ted Wheeler is a Democrat mayor of a major city and Donald Trump is a Republican president that is roundly hated by several Democrats, we have to lens both of their actions through those political filters, and we have to be very careful about their words. Now, problems with the allegations are: we don't know that they're being denied probable cause, and we don't know that they're being denied due process from the video that we're able to view. We have no idea whether or not that is taking place, and that will be incumbent upon the people whose rights are being violated to show, or for them to provide that evidence to the state of Oregon to present in their case in federal court. And that is something we'll have to wait and see. For now, we'll have to just go by what authority the feds have to operate in Portland, and then how that authority plays out for something like a wrongful arrest. And that's why I'm here, is to help do that. And you can actually find out most of this stuff if you just go to the Oregon State Bar and you look up the process or your rights while being arrested. So some of the key elements of this are that you have a right to be arrested by an identifiable police officer. Okay, so that officer needs to either be in uniform or that officer needs to be in a marked vehicle. It is either one. You have to be able to identify that they are police reasonably. So here's right below, that's a picture of some of the Fed agents and how they are dressed. The question would be, are these identifiable officers for the purposes of a wrongful arrest law or a violation of civil rights claim? And I don't know. I mean, they are identified as police. They are in uniforms. They're not in a traditional blue and black uniform or an all navy uniform, I think that Portland uses now. But they aren't Portland police, so they're not held to those same uniform regulations. So whether or not they are properly identifiable will be a matter for the courts in one of those actions if it's brought. I would say that the court should probably lean towards saying these are identifiable as police. And I don't think any protester can reasonably assert that they're thinking that someone other than a law enforcement officer of some type is picking them up. Now, they may not know they're Fed police, but I'm not aware, there may be one, I'm not aware of a requirement to specifically identify themselves as federal police by their uniforms. Now, when will you find out that there is that you're being picked up by federal police? It should be, quote, at the time of the arrest when they inform you of why you are being arrested. So this is part of the problem is are you even being arrested? Or are you getting a very short-term detention? Now, these people are being grabbed, walked across the street, put into a van, and driven off. I think it's pretty safe to say that for the purposes of a Fourth Amendment seizure, they are under arrest. They are arrested at that point legally. Not lawfully necessarily, but legally they are under arrest. And resisting said action would be a crime for them at this point. So it's important to remember that resisting an arrest that you believe is unlawful is a very, very risky proposition. It's not advised. Advice would be compliance with the arrest. Now, I know this is terrifying because you've got a guy in camo with tactical gear snatching you up and throwing you in a van. Very, very terrifying. I don't recommend it. Don't like it. I actually hate it. I think it's the type of tactics that we should be afraid of as the citizenry. But this isn't a question about whether I like it. This is a question about whether current law supports it. And I think at the moment, the propriety of federal agents doing these arrests exists. The question will be, of course, within each specific circumstances, are they following the procedure? Now, again, back to it. You are, at the time of being arrested, required to be informed of why you're being arrested and the probable cause for your arrest. Remember, the mayor of Portland said that they were being denied probable cause. Maybe they are if they're not being informed. But what I don't know is how the courts will determine that time of arrest window. Is it the moment they grab you and cuff you? Is it after they get you in the van? We're not really sure on that, or I should say I'm not really sure on that, and that will probably be a point of contention. Now, the videos do not show people being informed of the probable cause reasons for their arrest, and that, again, personal opinion is a problem, and I think that should be a violation of your rights. However, if the court allows some sort of brief exception window for the fact that they're in some sort of protest and their interest is getting them off the streets as fast as possible to prevent further crime or to prevent, say, a bunch of people from interfering with the arrest, maybe they have a justification for waiting, an additional 60 to 90 seconds to get them in a van or to get them in a car and then inform them of the reason they're being arrested. As for whether or not they're being denied due process, that's something that we can't know unless we have the identity of the person at the time of the arrest, and then we can follow for police reports and detention records and some sort of whereabouts of the person after they are arrested. And this is why arrest reports are actually an important thing. I know most people hate them, and I hate how people can use them to negatively implicate someone for something before they're convicted. However, the important part of those arrest records is the public transparency issue. If your bud Billy gets picked up by the police and then you don't see an arrest report from Billy the next day and you don't hear from Billy and can't contact him, suddenly we might have a problem that wouldn't otherwise be a problem. Like if the state picks him up and it's super suspicious, but you know the state picked up Billy, or that somebody picked up Billy, and then you see an arrest report come out the next day that says that Billy was picked up for blah, 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 blah. Well, now you at least know where they are and that the process is underway. So this is why that transparency in the process actually matters. And it's interesting seeing it in real time being played out sort of publicly. But let's transition here and take a look at one of these arrests, and we'll talk about some of these things in the context of facts as we have them. So here are two alleged Fed officers, and let's just go here.
What are you doing? Use your words. What are you doing?
Now, interestingly, if you notice on their chest, they are labeled police, just like the guys down in the picture below. Also, interestingly, the officers owe no constitutional duty to inform the people around them of why they're arresting an individual. They only owe that duty to the individual. Again, if you disagree with how this sounds, that's fine. I'm actually probably with you on that. I'm just telling you what the requirements are.
Use your words. What are you doing?
They don't have to answer you.
Use your words.
Now, this person says they haven't done anything wrong. Lots of people who have done something wrong will say they haven't done anything wrong. So we have to take this self-interested statement with a grain of salt and remember that we don't know what led up to this. We don't know what reason they're approaching this person in the first place. The camera doesn't show it. And importantly, they don't state it. Now, they may not have to. I wish they would. I wish they would say, we're arresting this person for vandalism. We need to question this person about something we saw down the block. We think this person, anything explanation I think would be beneficial. At the time, I'm not convinced that any of this would be legally required. And that's the question. So they got this guy. Or girl.
What is going on?
We need to know.
Who are you?
Why are you taking?
NLG will get you out. What's your name? Tell us your name.
What's your name?
Okay, you're fine. We'll get you out.
Bro, what?
Now, they keep asking for the name of this person. This person has a conundrum, right? In that they probably don't want to be identified or identifiable for various reasons, especially on video, right? Like, what if you want to show up to Starbucks the next day and they're like, buddy, there's national video of your name being displayed in relation to riots, and we can't support that, and you get fired. Which, again, I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's a reality we have to deal with today. So I didn't hear the person state their name. The camera person clearly says that they will get them out, which I think is maybe a stretch if you can't identify who they are. But maybe they did say something and it was muffled by the mask and not picked up by the camera. I don't know. But they will be required when requested by police officers once they're, informed that they're being arrested, which at this point, you're under arrest, right? They've got you, they've got your arms, and they're walking you to a place where you are not. And this person is not free to go. Like you can imagine if this person struggled or tried to run, that these officers would put them down. This person is under arrest. But along with that comes a responsibility of the person being arrested to identify themselves to the police doing the arrest. So the police have to be identifiable as police. And also they have to give them that probable cause for the arrest. But the person similarly has to tell the police officers who they are. And people who have resisted identifying themselves to police do not end up having things go well for their cases. So let's finish it up here.
We got you, friend.
We got you.
Oh, fuck.
NLG.
I don't know
You just violated their rights.
Now, see, that again, this is a very protest-friendly statement. You just violated the rights. We don't know if the rights have been violated because we don't know, again, if they're being informed as they're entering the van. But you've got people following police officers, presumably more than one. We can hear at least, I believe, 3 identifiable voices. And those officers may have a safety interest in removing the person from the situation before they spend time on the rest of the process. And the courts will have to determine whether or not that's acceptable. Now, again, personal opinion. I think it should be required or incumbent upon the officers to announce what is going on. I mean, the officers don't have to be right under the law. I think they should be right, obviously. But under the law, they don't have to be right. They just have to have a good faith, probable cause explanation for why they're doing the thing. So I think they should announce that to the person. I am, again, a fan of police documentation. I'm a fan of personal body cams, and I think all of it should be as transparent as possible. With that, I think the reasons behind an arrest should be clearly vocalized, especially if there's a camera on the officers. And I think that protects the federal officers and the process as much as it protects the person being arrested and the honoring of their rights. Remember, that person is required to be informed of the thing they're being arrested for and the probable cause reasons behind it. But we don't know if that's taking place. Now they're getting into, oh, real quick, I'll show it again. This is the van they're getting into. Like I said, it is an unmarked van, apparently rental vans. And you can see different ones. There's lots of videos involving these unmarked rental cars floating around. And according to the Oregon arrest procedures, it is permissible to have an unmarked car so long as the officers are identifiable as law enforcement agents. So whether or not they are identifiable as law enforcement based on their uniforms will be a question for the courts. If they are, then the question of the car is moot. If they're not, then that's a problem for the feds. And that's a problem for their arrest procedures. Again, would it be lovely to have every car, every pickup be marked? Yes, it would be great. It'd be great if these were all marked federal cars, but if they don't have the fleet in Portland already to disperse and to put out with these officers, then they've made use with rental cars, and that should actually be permissible under Oregon state law. Now, finally, one quick sort of summary question is, do the feds have authority at all to act in Portland, Oregon? Yes. Short answer, yes. Federal agents have the ability to act within a state for the purposes of enforcing federal laws. So yes, if they're there to protect federal property and there is someone damaging federal property in a way that would be violative of the law, then yes, they can enforce upon them. Again, we don't know if that happened in this particular instance because we don't have the facts leading up to the confrontation. We just have the confrontation itself. But I wanted to let people know that, yes, the feds do have a presumptive authority to operate within the state as long as they're enforcing federal laws and complying with state laws. And part of that compliance is following the state arrest procedures. Now, whether or not they did that in this case, I would say it doesn't look like it unless the court allows the police officer or the federal officers a buffer of time after removing a person from the street to go ahead and inform them of why they're being arrested. Unless we somehow didn't pick it out because it was muffled by the mask, but I really don't think they said much of anything at all. Oh, and I should show the remainder of this video just because I don't want to be accused of leaving out the context. They do drive away in pretty furious fashion. They get the guy in, and then they are gone. So then this is the next thing is a different scene here. But yeah, they drive away. There's no knowledge of where they go or anything like that. And again, the feds may be violating the due process rights of people. It really depends on what process they're subject to after being snatched up. And we don't have a way to track that very easily, especially not from these video clips. So I hope that helps inform you on how this stuff works, what the process actually is, and then that way you can kind of gauge for yourself whether or not you agree with the tactics being used by federal agents in Portland. I, for one, am always skeptical of the feds and how they're acting, and state authority in general, even down to the local municipal police, all the way up to the federal government. And I would say that whatever the outcome is, this should let you all know that we probably want more protections for the citizen, more transparency of the process. In particular, it also should be a wake-up call for Antifa and other protesters that if you're out there, you're going to have to walk this tightrope of saying, I don't want my identity to be known. And if my identity isn't known, people can't know what happens to me after I'm arrested. Oh, and you'll also, you're legally required to provide your identity and the accurate identity to the police when they do make that arrest. So you have to balance all of these things out. I am for transparency in the arrest process, specifically on the part of the state and the feds. I want everything they do to be open to scrutiny. And no, I don't care if you're Antifa or Black Lives Matter or a Boogaloo Bro or like one of the, what was that family out in Wyoming or whatever. I want everybody subjected to the same process, and I want them all, and I want everybody to be skeptical of the government and how it operates. So hope you found this informative and helpful. If you did, hit like and subscribe and all that stuff. We'll see you soon. Have a good day. Peace. Peace.